Okay. Welcome to Confabulation. Our Sister's House is a domestic violence advocacy organization. And if you or anyone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please contact Our Sister's House at 253-383-4275 or visit our website at oursistershouse.com. Don't forget to register for our last weekend at Holidays through our Eventbrite link on Facebook or on our Facebook page, or by scanning the QR code on our social media posts. Today's topic is going to be domestic violence in sports. So one of the things that's been happening a lot in the news in the past year, that we've been noticing a lot in the past year, even the past month, has been like in the NFL and domestic violence. So we figured we'd bring that up to the topic. So anybody have any comments to start us off?
Okay, so yeah, when it comes to the NFL, I know that we want to address, what the Washington football team and, some of those things that, transpired. There was supposedly sexual harassment in the workplace and all that stuff. And then all the NFL did was they fined him $10 million and there was no report on it or anything. And then I guess in the news, they were circulating that there were so many emails, like 650,000 emails or something like that. And then months later, John Gruden, one of the NFL coaches, was fired for misogynistic, racist, and I think some comments in those emails, and he was emailing one of the owners, not owners, but managers, but there might be owners and stuff like that. So that was leaked out or something. We don't know if it was by the NFL or we don't know if it was by we don't know who it was from. So I guess what we're trying to address from that situation is, what happened there and why did the NFL only fine them $10 million? And then why wasn't there a lengthy report like they did for Tom Brady? They did a lengthy report. They gave it out to the public and it's public knowledge on, and you can read the whole report. But when it comes to the Washington football team and, the whole sexual harassment and all that stuff in the workplace, with the 650,000 emails, there wasn't any report and there was only a $10 million fine. I don't know if they got docked any draft picks or anything like that. So, the way they handled that situation is very poorly, because in other smaller situations, they've had come out with huge reports for just deflating a football. So, I think sexual harassment and domestic violence is a lot bigger, and a more important thing. So, I think that's, the problem in this situation.
Well, to go on to that, their policies within the NFL organization, if you look at it, I think they only give 6 games, while they're looking into it, suspensions, and a lot of times, right? And so even in the United States, right, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? But there's still some kind of protocols of you still have to look into it, right? And so they have stats of where other incidences, like if there's drug speculations or other things, they're usually more suspensions for those kinds of things, and they look more into those kinds of incidents, and they look more seriously into those things, like you're saying. And the thing is if you look in the NFL and the training that they have for DV and the actual videos that they have to go through, there's only 5 minutes that these people have to go through every year. of like DV. There's 5 minutes for like firearms. There's 5 minutes for like children, child abuse, like things like that. The actual videos for each one is like 5 minutes, and you can actually tap through it. And it's open to the public on their sites. Like you can actually go through it. And I went through it. And so if you're a first year NFL player, second year NFL player, like we can all go through it. It's only 5 minutes and you can literally go through it, tap, tap, tap. It's not like it's mandatory, because if you can tap through it, it's not like you have to sit through it like some of the training videos of other things where you can't get through it and you have to sit there and the computer won't let you through it until you sit.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I think each team are responsible for their own part as far as domestic violence goes. I think each team have their own mandatory training as far as that goes. But as David was saying, the Washington football team, and the John Gruden thing, you got to think about, well, when it was Tom Brady and the Patriots, they find Tom Brady, right? They always looking for the small amount because the NFL is such this big conglomerate thing. They're not going to find the NFL, right? So they're not going to find the owners. They're going to find somebody underneath the owners that they can find, which this case with John Gruden, who's a coach for the Raiders that had nothing to do with the Washington football team except for the emails. Like David said, there was like 600 and some page report out there, but out of all this page report, the only thing they could find was something against John Gruden, which is amazing to me. And I know that the interplay between domestic violence and sports organizations go way back. You know, we could talk about Ray Rice, right? When Ray Rice was for the smaller person to get in trouble instead of the whole big thing, because they know that there's a problem in the NFL as far as domestic violence goes. They know there's a problem after a team loses game. A lot of time fans and players go home and beat their significant others. They know this, but they're not going to put no light on that because there's no money in it for them. That's how that goes. So if there's money in it for them, yes, they would show the light on all this stuff, but there's no money in it for them. There's more so there's money taken out of their pocket, so they don't want to show the negative side of everything.
But as an organization, they should be. Like, if you look at, so FIFA as an organization is now taking it really seriously. They teamed up with World Health Organization, and they've been doing it for the past couple of years. They signed into it, and they're taking it seriously. They're doing the research. They're trying to figure it out.
The big question is we need to ask, what can we do to help the NFL realize that there's a bigger problem than they're trying to allow us to be. Like the guy from Seattle Seahawks, when he beat his girlfriend, what did he say? He blamed it on he being a bipolar. See, they got all this other stuff they can blame on. Well, I'm bipolar when it comes to them getting in trouble. So that way it won't be so severe as it should be, right? When like you said, the drug and alcohol and all that stuff, that's a big thing. Like Antonio Brown got suspended 3 games for faking a COVID test, right? The domestic violence, they don't get suspended at all. So,
and it's totally true. Like you said Rice, right? He at least takes ownership for it, and he still goes in. He does. There are videos of him going in.
Ownership, he got caught on camera though. Think about it. He wouldn't have said nothing.
Totally.
If he didn't caught on camera.
Well, you'd hope that's not the reason.
I mean,
you'd hope that's not the reason.
If they never had the elevator video, he never would have said nothing. Just like Kareem Hunt got caught on camera when he kicked the girl in the face, and the girl kept egging him on, and he ended up beating the girl. Like a lot of these people, they don't say nothing until they get caught on camera because they have a fan base
or the treatment programs,
the leadership they have to like hold up to. So of course, when they get caught on camera and exposed to the world, they're gonna say sorry. A lot of these players ain't gonna say nothing up front, like the dude on the Bills yesterday on Monday night game, the safety he put on the thing, like he said, yeah, yada yada. He's like, I'm an alcoholic. And he's like, I need to get it fixed because I'm protect like my wife, my kids, and my teammates. He admitted he was being an alcoholic. You don't see no one's gonna come out and say, oh, I'm an abuser. Like, unless they get caught on camera. That's the big thing.
Yeah,
Well,
that is, that's very important because they did get caught on camera. But I mean, and Dennis was right, saying that that you have to affect their pocketbooks most thing because or there has to be some profit in it or something because this has been a problem in the NFL in a lot of sports for years, but it's very especially the NFL, and they really haven't done anything to address it. Um, and that's just a huge problem. But I would say, yeah, when it came to the Ray Rice and the what's called Kareem Hunt, I think that the same thing happened with even cleats. Brandon Marshall, they have like this whole cleat awareness thing. Like it was this past week where they get to basically show their cleats and they put on their cleats like an organization or something that they're supporting and an awareness to. Well, Brandon Marshall did that years past, and he got fined for it. And now, since it's profitable, now they're making now everybody has a week where they get to basically show the teams that they support. Well, did they apologize for that stuff? And you can even go back to the Colin Kaepernick stuff. Like, even when Colin Kaepernick was standing for something that was right, years later, they apologized, but they didn't apologize to Colin Kaepernick or anything like that. So, I mean, when they start affecting their pocketbooks, that's when they start moving. The same thing happened with the Washington football team. When Nike pulled out and Foot Locker, they stopped selling all their stuff because they were named the Washington Redskins or whatever. And the owner said, we would never change the name. We'll never change the name. But as soon as they stopped selling their stuff, their pocketbooks dried up. They said, whoop, they changed the name real fast. So, I mean, I guess it would be incumbent upon us as, a people that, see the domestic violence. We know it's wrong. And the whole nation knows it's wrong, but we just pass by. We're just like, oh, well, he plays really good at football, so let's excuse it because we want to see him on Sunday and we want to see our team win, of course. But at the same time, if we don't address this stays a big issue. And some of these people are role models for people. So, if they do it, it's okay. It's in rap music, so it's okay. So, it's something that definitely has to be addressed from these, corporations to, bring awareness and, people actually be held accountable for their actions.
So do you think the players are just as responsible for staying silent next to the other players who know it's happening?
I think so. But they are also like a brand of brothers, and I think a lot of people don't know how to handle domestic violence. Even when we talk to clients on the phone, they don't even know how to handle domestic violence. Half the time, they don't even know they're even in a domestic violence situation. They know something's wrong, but they're not necessarily sure what kind of situation. And then even if they know that they're in a domestic violence situation, they don't know how to get out. And especially people that family members or friends that call in, they don't know how to support either. They're like, I know something's wrong. I just don't know how to support. And after a while, they stop trying to support because of all that other stuff. And then on the flip side, there's the people that are the abusers. What kind of help can the abusers get? Because some of these, abusers do have a traumatic childhood, or, there might be a reason why they live that way. And that's, kind of the way they survive. And so if that's the way they survive, they're going to continually do it. And, some of these people are narcissists and stuff like that. They think everything's wrong with the other people. So they're not going to get help for themselves. So until, these people are held accountable, and put out or whatever the punishment needs to be, and then get services to, ultimately change their behavior. Because ultimately, they're not going to change unless, somebody really,
They want to change.
Yeah, they want to change. And then how do they change? So, domestic violence is both sided, as in the victim needs help, but also, the people that are doing this, they also need help in ways of, hey, this is wrong, and how can we, change this around? How can we deal with our actions, take responsibility for what we've done, and then ultimately, find a better way to address whatever anger, even if somebody's, the not Ray Rice, but the Kareem Hunt situation. How can we, dissolve that situation in a better way,
I think also a lot of times the people that are involved in domestic violence with sports don't want to lose their lifestyle, right? They got this glamorous lifestyle that they're living, and they're thinking, well, if I turn him in, I'm going to lose this, he's going to lose that. And they become so much sympathetic towards the person that's abusing them that they forget that it's wrong. And that's why a lot of time they won't turn their boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, whatever in to the police because they don't want to lose that lifestyle.
We should also talk about how there's the athletes that get beat up by their wives. Dwayne Haskins had a situation over the summer where his wife beat him up in a hotel room in Las Vegas. Like, everyone always thinks, oh, it's the players, but domestic people don't understand domestic violence isn't always a man being a woman. It's also a woman being a man. Like, there's also times where a wife can be on the man and the man don't do nothing, the man don't say nothing because, for a man that's embarrassing to them. How if their wife is beating them up, that's why a lot of players are quiet. It's not that big issue talked about a lot. Dwayne Haskins was one of the rare ones we've seen because of how he came out, but still.
There's also the emotional, people forget about the emotional abuse that can happen or the psychological abuse that men can experience that they don't want to come out also just because it's not physical.
Yeah, I think that's all across boards when it comes to the, emotional abuse. Half the time, most people don't know, it's abuse. And some people, don't even know that they're abusing someone emotionally. Again, that just goes to how they survive. I'm not saying that, it's okay because they don't know, but I'm just saying that, oftentimes people don't know that emotional abuse is, abuse. And it doesn't just have to be the physical. So just because he's not hitting you or she's not hitting you or whoever is not hitting you, doesn't mean it's not abuse. It just can't be. It's just harder to prove that they are,
I think going back to what Senator said about Dwayne Haskins is when a man is abused and you call the police, they they have a tendency to laugh at a male who's being abused by his wife because they just don't think it's. A lot of time people don't have the mindset think that it's possible, not even mentally physical abuse. They don't think that it's possible because looking at this guy, he's 6'7", 220 pounds, 230 pounds. And his girlfriend probably 5'6", 5'7", 110, 90 pounds like that. They just don't see that it's possible for a young woman to abuse a man. Sometimes it works exactly that way. And that's time, like Jane said, it's the emotional abuse that a man can feel too because a lot of time his wife, girlfriend could be doing things to him, and like you said, she don't know, but she don't know she abusing him, but he feel the abuse, and he don't know how to get that out, express that out, because a lot of time we as men don't know how to express our feelings. Sometimes we're taught when we fall down and scrape our knee, go back outside. If a young lady fall down, scrape her knee, they put a band-aid on and be like, "Oh, you'll be okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay." They tell us men when we're growing up, don't cry, don't show emotions, because you're considered weak that way, and that's not weak. I think we as men have to realize when we're being abused, if we're being abused, that it's okay to reach out and get help and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know that goes, thanks for that, Dennis. That goes straight into, some of the football culture, sports culture, they also, it's heightened with that, especially the higher levels you get into. I know that there's TikTok user that I like to listen to and watch, because it's funny, because he goes over, how college coaches go over film and stuff. And basically, over film, it just, they go in on players, they make fun of them. They're saying they pissed down their leg, your mom could have blah, 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 blah. So, shaming them, and it's funny as a joke, but, this is ultimately something that, these players have gone through. So basically what they're taught is, okay, somebody gets you on the field, you got to get them back. So they have that same mentality, and especially, the higher and the, more competitive you are, that could become a problem, because you might not be able to differentiate, I'm always competitive. So I feel like somebody's attacking me, so I'm going to attack them right back. And I think that, if that is part of their lifestyle, not saying that is a bad lifestyle if you know how to separate it, and some people can't separate those things. And that is something that also needs to be addressed. Hey, maybe, there's a different way to teach, because ultimately, a lot of times in sports, people think that, oh, there's only one way to teach. You either got it or you don't. And that kind of fuels that type of mentality to, also goes into the culture of sports or football. Not saying that they are inherently, evil or something like that, but for some people it does, help nurture that nature of them that's already, I guess, already inside, and they don't know how to deal with it when it comes to their relationships. They deal to their relationships like it's a competitive sport, and it's not.
Well, it's also just in general nowadays, a lot of people are in single parent homes. Their coaches are another parental figure. And if that's the experience that they're getting, and the more time you spend with a coach, if that's the constant feedback you're getting, that's a learned behavior. And so regardless if you're male or female, if you're continuously getting that feedback in the same manner, the more and more you're going up in a competitive league, it's something that's going to become learned. You know what I'm saying? So it's exactly what you're saying, David, is it's male, female. If you're continuing getting put down or like pushed to like, oh, you're like, that's such a girl, like, don't act like a girl, or don't, like, my mom could do better than that, or like, don't throw like, I mean, even on a softball field, like you throw like a baby, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just like constantly the way you are, it's you're demeaning them. And so that's the constant feedback you're getting. And so it's like, if you're treated like that for a lot of people who are in one parent homes, it's just a parental figure.
Right. And I think, like David was saying, I think that go back to what David was saying, though, that you're being so competitive, and when you get home, you don't know how to turn that competitor off. Right. So your relationship becomes your competition, right? So you're looking at your significant other as this person that you're competing with, instead of looking at the person who's going to be there for you and love you. And that's why a lot of times domestic violence goes from the football field, basketball, or baseball, whatever sport it is, to home, because they don't know how to turn that part of it off. There's no training for that. There's no one training them how to do that when they leave the football field, how to turn that off. There's no you said there was a video. There's no video for that. There's no counseling. Teams are not counseling that part of that part. When you give it your all that day on the football field, the basketball, then you lose that game and you're distraught. You go home, and the first time somebody says something negative to you, you take it out on them, because there's no counseling to teach you. You got to learn that to learn that stuff on the field.
And I think the solution for that would be, I don't know how we could, take away the money from the NFL. Because I think that's the only way, it would affect their pocketbooks, is, if they could do something about it. But, if they were open to suggestions, I would suggest that, that would be something, therapy and / domestic violence classes would be mandatory, especially from rookies, because a lot of young people. It's usually a lot of young people that are doing all this domestic violence stuff. They're young in their careers, and they're probably their career has been their main focus. They're probably starting to get a family and stuff like that, but they don't know how to deal with those things because all they have been is competitive 24/7. Everything's a competition because everything has been made into a competition, and that's how they got to that high level. Salute to them for getting to that high level, for being that competitive, but they don't know how to turn it off. And I know that when it comes to sports in the NFL, the first thing that they teach them is, how to address the media, how to answer questions, all those things. Those are part of the NFL's any type of sports life. How do I answer these questions? How do I, give the right answers and all that stuff to reporters and all that stuff? Obviously, domestic violence has affected the NFL in, many negative ways. And in some ways, it takes from players' money, it takes away from their product and affects their pocketbooks, but it doesn't necessarily affect the team as much. And I think that's the problem of why they don't address it, because it doesn't affect their pocketbooks as much, I guess, unless if it was like Tom Brady and it started becoming like the top quarterbacks, and that goes into the Deshaun Watson case. But if since it doesn't affect the quarterbacks as much, or they just insert the quarterback in after a suspension of 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something, that's not made a priority. But I guess the solution would be, start them, as soon as they come into the NFL. Hey, domestic violence has been a problem in our sport. We need to bring that down. We need to, teach you how to address these situations, that your spouse, your girlfriend, whoever you're dating is not your competition. This is a relationship. And how do I, deal with, whatever competitive or whatever therapeutic thoughts that I need to address, and how can I, find a better solution even when I am hostile or I feel like I'm competing with, this person.
So I do want to address what you said, David. When you say that it's when it's not affecting the team, most people don't speak up about it. That makes me think about this whole Zach Stacy case, and he doesn't play anymore, but that video of him got released, and I'm not sure if the NFL even addressed that at all, because I mean he doesn't play anymore. But how come stuff like that gets to just be swept underneath the rug? Like, what is it going to take for them to speak out about this? Because it is something that's important, and it happens a lot, whether on camera or behind closed doors. It's a touchy subject, but I think that people have to just really get out on that forefront about it so that there can be some type of change. And I think that FIFA starting this is a good way to go about it. And I think that it's going to create a domino effect for sure.
Well, the only way it would make a domino effect is if all of the public started siding towards hey, somebody needs to their money was affected or something, or it has to be the top players. Like, it would have to be a Tom Brady, an Aaron Rodgers, a Russell Wilson. Those are top quarterbacks. Those are people that are making 200, Patrick Mahomes. Those people are making tons and tons and tons of money, and their organization is basically decided on how well that person plays. So it would have to be up to the top players to drive that change, or else it's not going to change, because they can't really blackball them when it comes to those top players. So they would have to listen to their decisions, or what they really support. So
Well,
it's
so
really
like
incumbent on them.
at least, like, if you look at it, like, at least FIFA has like a 9-page statement with the World Health Organization that's saying like, these are our expectations. This is like, it has like education platform. It has like issues, if you like, where to go, like things like that. Like, it has an outline of like what to expect, and it's throughout multiple countries for like football, so soccer, right? So it's at least trying to give it so people throughout other countries are learning, and for survivors, for people who are struggling, so this way they have something to stand on in a sport. And so there were a couple of like higher ups, right, who this way they can't jump from country to country. And so it's different with football because it's really kind of one country right now. I mean, granted, we'll have England at some point, but like it'll keep it from happening in multiple places. But like at least a sport is trying to take it seriously, and then they're going to be able to do research and try to manage like when it happens more often, and try to take a stance and kind of work it up and down and try to figure out like the triggers and like try to work with a system, because we're not doing that. Like we're not even taking it seriously.
Well, I think FIFA got other problems though. They got racial problems, right?
Totally.
So they got other problems they need to deal with that's not they don't deal with. The NFL problem is domestic violence problem. And like David said, if you look at the NFL, all the top players are the quarterbacks, right? So as long as if the quarterbacks get behind it, the NFL will listen. And that's the problem. Like in basketball, the top players are, the top players are, and when they speak out, the NBA listen. But in the NFL, the quarterbacks are silent. The quarterbacks are very quiet. They're very meek and mild. They do not speak out against nothing. Kaepernick was the only one as a quarterback that spoke out, and you see what happened to him. They blackballed him. So in the time you speak out, if he would got other quarterbacks behind him, he would still be playing in the NFL. I think David is 100% right. Once you get the top players for each team behind you, Russell Wilson for the Seahawks behind you, yes, they will speak out. Russell Wilson hasn't said nothing about the guy that beat his girlfriend in Seattle. He didn't say a word. And I
that
think
says a lot.
you're right. And I think the NFL look at it well. They look at each one as individual. So the Seahawks are individual. That's a Seahawks problem they look at. So if it happened in Baltimore, that's a Baltimore problem. But no, it's an NFL problem. They don't want to look at it as an NFL problem. They want to look at each team has its own problem. If it happened in Atlanta, that's the Falcons' problem, right? But it happened everywhere. Sometimes it's not getting reported, and they won't look at it that way.
And that also goes to how their contracts are structured. Because their contracts in the NBA, if we look at the NBA to the NFL, just that comparison, the NBA, they have 100% guaranteed contract. So whether they get hurt or not, they still getting that money for the top players. For the top players in the NFL, still not getting guaranteed money. People in baseball, they're getting guaranteed money. So you can speak out whenever, when you have your money backed up. I mean, ultimately, money talks for players. So they're not going to say nothing, unless their money is guaranteed. So, and that also goes to their, organization, the NFLPA, which is, their players association. And they don't have that much power because, the guaranteed contracts are not backed up. And then they're not backed up by, top players. And the NBA PA, their players association is backed up by some of the top players, Chris Paul, LeBron James, and stuff like that. Those names. But they're backed by that, and then they're backed by their contracts. They're getting 100. All their contract money is coming to them. Whether or not they play or they get hurt. So it's kind of hard to talk about anything because you can easily get backballed because some other people are not gonna. I mean, all the teams are hush about everything in the NFL. And then they got helmets, so you can barely recognize the players anyway. So that player that, did all that domestic violence on Seattle, I don't even know who he is. I watch football all the time. I don't know. I'm not a Seahawks fan, just so you know. Go Jags. But they're not going to it's not going to cause that big of an impact because, they're guaranteed contracts. The NFLPA is not that strong. And then, he's a no-namer and you can't see his face. So it's really hard to, right. Have an impact when there's all those things, in place.
Right.
Well, so like you guys are saying, the silence is screaming. Their silence is basically speaking volumes to an extent.
But I think their silence are saying, I'm not doing it, so it doesn't affect me. because, like David said, if I say something, going to affect my pay. Even as an NFL player, the little money they do get that's guaranteed, they could get that money back if you mess up and they sign this bonus. Most of the time, they sign the bonus is what they get as far as guaranteed, but they can always go back after you and get that money back if you mess up. See, the NFL got it so
Rigged.
anything, right? Basically, yeah, anything that you get out of line, we could get our money back from you. It doesn't matter what you do, and that's the problem. The NBA, you can say what you want. I'm gonna get my money regardless. You can bench me. I'm gonna get my money regardless. You could cut me. I could go sign with another team and get my money and that money also, which is guaranteed. So that's why a lot of times the NBA players speak up, because they know if you cut me, I could go sign with another team. You still got to pay me, and this team gonna pay me as well. So.
And last thing, when it comes to the FIFA, I know that they're doing that sounds like they're doing a good job. I don't know much about soccer, but I know that they have riots after games, so they got their own problems. So I mean, yeah, they're doing a good job in that area, but it's also because it's a huge global thing. So there's more opinions and more people affecting their money, and it's more everybody's backing it type thing. And they're also, their contracts are not structured like the NFL. So the NFL is a different beast when it comes to, these situations. There has to be a lot of changes in so many different areas in the NFL, but mainly it comes back down to the money. How much, money you got.
And it's one issue they chose to focus on, not another issue.
Right. But the thing is, they all should be taking something from each sport, right? If FIFA are doing such a great job in this, they should take that concept and use it, right? FIFA done a great job as far as domestic violence go. NFL, let's take this concept and mold it to fit what we do in America, right? But no, they don't do that. They just looking at it like, well, if he mess up, there's another guy I could get to play the same position he played for less money. And that's the way they look at it. Unless you are Tom Brady.
And on that note, this is Our Sister's House. So this is Confabulation. Our Sister's House is a domestic violence advocacy organization. And if you or anyone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please contact Our Sister's House at 253-383-4275 or visit our website at oursistershouse.com. Don't forget to register for our last weekend of holidays through our Eventbrite link or on our Facebook event page, or by scanning the QR code on our social media posts. We hope you enjoyed our topic today, and please join us next week. Thanks.